climb to the hilltop, an elevation of 1,600 feet or 500 meters, we pass through 5 miles of the sprawling Hearst family ranchlands. However, this is more than a bus ride to the hilltop. Our journey will also transport us across several decades through time, when this home was a destination for many of the world's most famous personalities. The estate, once the home of newspaper publisher William Randolph Hearst, is now called Hearst San Simeon State Historical Monument. During its heyday, the late 1920s through the mid-1930s, Mr. Hearst used it as a country home and retreat, where he and his family entertained. The Hearst family's feelings about this special place were apparent in the Spanish name they gave to the estate, La Cuesta Encantada, the Enchanted Hill.
In San Simeon's most active years, Americans were witnessing dynamic political and social changes. The advent of Prohibition and its later repeal, the Great Depression, President Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal, and the rise in popularity in motion pictures and radio all had profound effect on American society during this period. Newspaper and magazine publisher William Randolph Hearst makes a considerable impact on the nation's economy. The latest edition of Fortune magazine reports that Mr. Hearst employs 31,000 people in his vast business empire. The construction of his San Simeon estate keeps locals working during a worldwide economic depression. But it's more than a home they're building. It's a vast museum of art and antiques to which Mr. Hearst has already invited Winston Churchill, President and Mrs. Calvin Coolidge, Charles Lindbergh, and Amelia Earhart.
Guests received a message from Mr. Hearst to come visit the ranch. Included with the invitation, there might be tickets for a seat on his private railroad car that was attached to a train that left Los Angeles and stopped in San Luis Obispo. From there, a cab brought the guests the remainder of the distance to the working cattle ranch at San Simeon, where they would pass through a gate located near the present-day bus boarding area. Once visitors reached the hilltop, they would be greeted by a member of the household staff and escorted to their accommodations. They were shown to one of 3 guest houses or to rooms on the upper floors of the main house.
So there's 3 other homes besides the house. Three other houses. Plus
This musical program with a special bulletin. President Franklin D. Roosevelt has just put his signature on a law that reverses the Volstead Act of 1920. Prohibition is repealed. Drink up, America. Happy days are here again.
Surprise when Mr. Hearst offered only modest amounts of alcohol to his guests during parties. Although he strongly opposed prohibition, he encouraged moderation when it came to strong drink and asked his guests not to bring their own liquor to his home. Typical of the wealthy who entertained in country estates, Mr. Hearst, a generous host, provided everything that his guests might need during an extended visit. Tennis clothing, riding outfits, and bathing suits were provided for guests to borrow, and some guests remembered that these items were packed in their luggage as gifts when they departed. On a cool winter evening, women could even borrow a fur from Mr. Hearst's basement fur vault. This evening, the California Department of Parks and Recreation invites you to relive the glory days of San Simeon. Imagine yourself as a guest of Mr. Hearst, enjoying a typical gathering at his country home. You'll see the historic buildings much as they appeared during their heyday. You may even encounter characters in 1930s period clothing behaving as a guest might, taking an evening stroll through the gardens or enjoying social areas or guest rooms. In order to preserve the monument for future visitors, we have a few requests. Please touch only the metal and concrete handrails that are there for your safety. When inside the buildings, walk only on the special carpet runners. Avoid the use of camera flash, and use only available light when taking photographs. Deposit all chewing gum in the receptacle after leaving the bus. For your safety and the monument's security, please stay with your tour group. Visitors with cell phones are requested to turn off the phones during the tour. Thank you. Now, imagine yourself as a guest of Mr. Hearst as you step back in time to visit his enchanted hill in the 1930s.